Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, depending on where you are from in the world. To all our participants, feel free to mention where you're from in the chat below if you're watching on the Earth Action Hub platform. We are super excited to have you here today, and we are here with Daniel Charny, who is best known for the perhaps the international learning program Fixperts. This talk will be in English. It is being recorded. And if you do have any questions for our speaker during this talk, please put them in the chat and we'll have time at the end to ask some questions. And with that, Daniel, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, lunchtime, evening to everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to take part in this big hug of Earth Action Hub. It's really, we're not kind of a climate action organization, but I think we share a lot of the values, and I'm going to talk about an education program, a learning program, which is maybe foundational to a response about future generations. So I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to bombard with quite a lot of things, but if there's anything that you want to hear more about, please say in the chat and we'll try and pick up on it. So I'm going to share my screen and wait to see that it works. Yesterday I was talking to people and I thought the screen was working, but it wasn't. So let's just check. And
looks good.
Looks all right. Okay. So the talk is titled Reasons to be Making, which is a reference to one of my favorite tunes, Reasons to be Cheerful. And it's about why making, I think, is our most precious resource. And it's very much about making with a purpose in this case. And I'm going to talk about a learning program called Fixperts, which we started about 10 years ago, and I'll explain a bit why. But first of all, I think when you have a title like that, you actually have to say why, what are the reasons to be making? And of course, in this situation we are all in, we do need creative problem solving in a big scale. So where do we start? Making is a way of expressing meaning. It's a way of being resourceful. It's a way of caring. It's a way of sharing. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of doing things together. Making is an empowering thing. It brings communities together. Making is something that allows people to think through things, discover things, enjoy things, but also make the things they need and care about our planet and care about resources. And making is also very close when it is done with a purpose. It is about merging creativity and critical thinking through the action of making. And it removes barrier. It allows us, helps us to remove barrier. I come from a background of design and designing, and it's very much part of that. It's a way of making positive change and removing barriers so more people can be part of the things they should have access to. So Fixperts is a project by an organization called Fourth. It's a new organization, it's a community interest company, but is responding to the unparalleled change in our lifetime. And our focus is very much about supporting and enabling people to respond creatively to change so they can live better lives in the future. So everyone together. I mean, in terms of our context, we're really in education mostly, but we find ourselves not only in formal education, also in informal and non-formal education. And we are very much focused on the new generation. And in order to do that, we really need to achieve a cultural shift and change the attitudes around making. Because I guess I'll go back 10 years But first I want to show you a short film just to explain what Fixperts is. So I hope the sound works. So these are edits from films all around the world. So I'm going to go 10 years back. Fixperts is now active all around the world, but it started after I curated an exhibition called Power of Making at the Victoria and Albert Museum. I was invited by the Crafts Council and the Victoria Albert Museum to put together an exhibition around contemporary craft. But having taught design, industrial design, technology design, whatever you want to call it, product design for over 20 years, I saw that there was a real distance professionally for a lot of people from making. And also for us in towns, especially in cities, especially in urban environments, and particularly in the West, there's a real distance from making. Children grow up without seeing people fixing stuff. And so this was an opportunity to pull back from craft and to pull back from design, fashion, surgery, whatever, to one thing we all share, and this is making. And we're talking about empowerment through making and knowledge exchange. The exhibition was in a small space, but it kind of touched a raw nerve for people. We had over 320,000 people visit it. And it was overwhelming and humbling to suddenly realize that it was something that on people's minds. And in the exhibition, we kind of interrogated this question: will making be part of our future? And this was 10 years ago. I still don't have a clear answer, although I know what I'd like it to be. And I think the action that we have to take in order for it to be very much part of our future is comprehensive and has to be very inclusive and across all platforms. The exhibition was a kind of Aladdin cave of all kinds of making types of knowledge, mixing them together to kind of explore how makers think. There were areas that looked at transfer of knowledge from one type of making to another, how makers think about scale, volume. There was a makerspace active with the first 3D desktop printer that made the next one, the Mendel and the MakerBot. This was 10 years ago, and it was quite hard to get people to kind of agree to the term making as a name even for the exhibition. But a lot has changed in the last 10 years in that sense. And these values that we talked about, that yes, they were very much part of the maker movement, but they've also kind of, the maker movement itself has gone into a hype and gone into all kinds, been hijacked by commercialization, has been doing amazing things in education. And that's where primarily we focused on the education. But also, young people are changing in that sense that they're taking ownership of the issues, leading, and we need to support that, and understand our changing world. And in terms of that kind of education, we need to really rethink curriculums, and we need to really think collaborative learning and all kinds of things. So Fixperts is one little project that it's trying to do this, respond to the future of skills and really reassess making in schools. We've identified 4 kind of big reasons for why making is critical in schools to be able to respond to these issues. This is very UK focused because we're primarily active in schools here, but the university program is international, and we're hoping that the schools program will also grow. But at the heart of it is this idea of making with a purpose, and making in using your creativity in social context. And so Fixperts is really very much, I'd like to show one more film of a project which I really find inspiring. This is Gabby. This is a project from a few years ago, but it explains what a Fixperts project is. A group of students have to go out into the community and connect to a fixed partner. In this case, they went to a local school. This is a group of students at Kingston University in London. They met Gabby. At the time, she was 5. This is 4 years ago. And they talk to her and the people around her that care for her, and they have to choose something daily that they can work with her to improve. So they spend time with the fixed partner, talking about their day. They have to learn to listen. They have to learn to look, have a conversation before they jump to designing. Starts with the people. The thing they zeroed in on, and the thing that frustrates her very much, is that she is unable to feed herself, eat by herself. So it's quite a difficult challenge because someone has to actually be with her when she's eating, hold her hand, hold the spoon. So they talk to her, they go to the workshop, and they immediately start thinking through making lots of prototypes. They went back to Gabby. Getting real feedback is critical. She was not impressed. It was too heavy, too clumsy. So they had to improve their skills, their thinking, and their idea. They looked at new materials, and they came up with a new concept, which was, instead of holding something that holds the spoon, they came up with a spoon that holds her. And they had to use new materials, 3D printing, casting, so they're improving their skills. But really what they're discovered is that together they can figure new ideas out. And she's been using this for years now. And they became a team together with the carers. And so they learned something about how to apply their design. This is a classic Fixperts project, and there are close to 1,000 now in all these countries. They're online, you can see them. And this is Gabby, who came to receive the prize they won at the Royal College of Art because she was part of the team, of course. And people that are doing Fixperts around the world are really focusing on daily things, and they're modeling this process of focusing on conversation, observation, and then responding. So it's a very inclusive, it comes from user-centered design, but of course, once they get into that, they also think about the materials they're using, the cycle of those materials, and the care to the resources. All these things are online. All the teaching materials are free. There's a YouTube channel. And for teachers, Fixperts in schools, we have a kind of adapted this to a more language and structure that can be taught from 9 to 14 and in high schools. And getting started means they're learning to listen. There's an activity about levels of listening. They learn ideation, how to develop an idea, how to try things out, and how to experience those, simulate those situations. So it's very similar to a design process, but really it's about experiencing and learning thinking how other people are experiencing it. And then they develop it and present it. So if there are any teachers out there, please, this is for free. Just have a look, tell us what you think. And these are the resources. Then this is an example of one about developing ideas. We're working with all kinds of organizations where we adapt these for them so that it fits their needs. And that's kind of the focus of what they learn. Fixperts are about everyday problems, and they're very much about the social benefit of applying creativity. In terms of the fit in schools, it's kind of the STEM area, but we've seen it also being applied in science, in human geography, and other places. And we think it should be something that is taught to everyone, not if they're going to be designers, but so that they can experience making as a creative force. And teachers are responding well. And they're kind of already independent. Like the universities, schools are beginning to just try things out and run it. It's an open source and it's under Creative Commons. And I don't know how we're doing for time. So Riza, do you want for me to jump 5 minutes into a different story about Fixcamp, which is about solving the big problems of the world, not every day?
We have about 12 more minutes. So
okay, shall I do a couple of minutes on this?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were working in the English system to get into schools with in the curriculum, and we've been training teachers. Hundreds of teachers have trained and using it. But because of the system here is very subject focused, and this is a project-based STEM type learning, it's been very hard. So at some point we thought, okay, how else can we get to inspire and excite people to think like this? And we worked more from the engineering with the Royal Academy of Engineering. They helped us try out this new format called Fixcamp, which is again about the problem solvers of the future. But this time it's not about daily things. It's tackling the kind of sustainable development goals. And we chose number 11, and we invited 9 to 14-year-olds to come and fix the world. And this was a summer activity 3 years ago. The next iteration of it is happening in the Museum of Making in Derby, starting this summer. And this was a bit different. It was about introduction to engineering, introduction to making. It was done in South London with 250 children coming in. And it was about big thinking, big making, about this attitude. Again, very much like Power of Making, it was about imaginative use of skills and about this continuity of knowledge between traditional and new, not looking back or just forward, but this whole idea that making is a key to this continuum of knowledge. So yes, another very short film. So we took over a school, an engineering school, in the summer. In the morning, they were making their tools and their tool belt every day, using all kinds of tools they've never held before, materials, traditional and new, learning very basic skills and mixing the physical and the digital, wiring plugs, which everyone's forgotten how to do, laser cutting, putting drones together. Every lunchtime, we had a conversation about what it will be like to live together well in cities that are getting more and more crowded. Every day started with the same sentence and took different directions. And and they came up with all kinds of ideas. They built them, and then they presented to each other. And they were brilliant. It was a delight. So again, it's a format. We ran it, we prototype, and then we look for partners to scale it up, adapt. Both Fixperts and Fixcamp are going to have museum and community versions in Derby, Museum of Making. And at the end of the Fixcamp, they get a certificate, but it's not just about the skills, it's also about helping a friend, and it's about the mindset as much as it is about the skills. And that's, you know, a different format again, but very much trying to wake up, remind us that making is such a precious resource, and we all have it. We just maybe sometimes forget it. And so yeah, it's kind of a reminder about the relationship that we can have through making. And I think care is a kind of axis from taking care of something to taking care of a situation to creatively responding to the needs of the planet. And we have to start somewhere. In that sense, we're starting here, and there's other organizations, and we know that the key is connecting between a lot of pockets. And that's why I'm really glad that Earth Action Hub invited us to be another pocket in your big fabric. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was so cool to see. I think I personally know that, like, I wish I knew how to make more things. And your point about like connecting caring and creativity and making to bring solutions is just, it's very logical. And I think we all have it in us, but sometimes we miss that link. Thank you very much for your presentation. We do have a question from the audience. Throwaway culture has become a big thing, and it has stopped us from fixing things. If something breaks, you just get rid of it, buy a new one kind of thing. And how can we encourage people to fix things instead of throwing them away and buying new things?
So this is a really hot subject, isn't it? The right to repair movement would be jumping on this question and saying, how can we do it? It's a cultural shift. You know, if your instinct is to throw, then it's not really your fault, because you're kind of responding to the whole world that's built around you. And, you know, children reflect the culture in which they grow in, and if it's a consume and throw culture. So how do we do this? We talk about the value that is created when you fix something. You have a relationship with it, and that's something that, again, it's connected to the care. You know, you have a if you fixed even a toaster, you feel a bit closer to that toaster and you want to keep it going. And if you're fixing a jumper or you're fixing a washing machine, it has to do with also your confidence. So having access is the first thing, access to the possibility of fixing, and that's both a legal and a cultural thing. Secondly, beyond the access, having the experiencing the idea of making and fixing is a second thing that has to happen. If you don't experience, you'll never have the confidence to do it. So building confidence is critical. And also in order for people to think about fixing, they need to understand the implication, the consequences. So there's an experiential side, but there's also a very strong aspect of advocacy about what is the meaning of this when you throw away something, what it does to the ocean, what it does to the land, what it does to the air. And that's why I think the way to address this, or at least one of them, is through education, writing, projects like we're working with a Derby High School near Manchester on a zero waste school, or we're working with a local school here in South London about the air we breathe. And that's a project-based experience where the children are both learning through science. It's a science class, but it's bringing in other design and technology and arts, and bringing those disciplines together at an early age to understand that you can change things and experience them. And fixing actually is a really good way to get into this. Mm-hmm. These two lesson plans or schools are part of a bigger research project, an EU Commission research called Make It Open, about open schooling, and it's happening across, we're part, so Forth is part of a research partnership with a group in the Wach Institute, the BSMJ in Israel, Copernicus in Poland, and FabLearn in Colombia, and we're all looking at new formats, again, hoping that these new formats then get to scale up.
Super, incredible.
Slightly too long of an answer, but encourage people by fixing, and they'll see you and they'll fix as well.
Yes, absolutely. One last practical question. How old do you have to be to join the Fix Camp, and how do you become a Fixpert?
So Fixperts is an invitation. You can just do it. If you want to learn a bit more how to do it, there are guidelines you can download, but really, the nicest thing about Fixperts is that you can just create a Fixperts team, find a Fix partner, start choosing something really simple and daily, and remembering to learn from the person you are working with. We have top tips on how not to be a savior, but how to be a partner, and things like that. So it's very important to learn while you're working together. And in terms of Fixperts, more formally, it's run in universities. So the nearest university to you, you might connect. And also, I mean, you can do it yourself, and you can also be part of a university push. In terms of schools, Fixperts in schools, all the resources are free and downloadable. And if you have any questions, just say hello@fixperts.org. You'll probably get to me or one of our team. In terms of ages of Fix Camp, we ran a 9 to 14-year-olds. Museum of Making, we worked with them to develop their own version. They'll be looking at transition age, so it's kind of 12, 13, 11 to 13. And we're looking for other partners, and it kind of, you can start very early. I think it depends a bit about how your setup is. Super. All right, well, great. Thank you so much. We had a lot of interest from parents as well, so you can be older, you can be above 16 as well. Amazing. So it's for everyone. Everyone can be a maker. Fantastic. Yeah. So thank you so much, Daniel, for your time and for this really thought-provoking talk. To all our participants, we have lots more fun, exciting things happening at Earth Action Hub today. We have a very cool climate well-being workshop coming up and some other great talks. Wow. So join us for that. And as always, we have the action plans and explorations and forums on the website. So thank you, everyone, for being here and for watching. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you all.